Please leave is where I left off in some of my analysis. And it's what John Ramsey said in this interview. He said, please leave. If you had anything to say to the criminal, this is in 2000, JonBenet is dead. Nothing we can do about that. We're just trying to get the guy to turn himself in. And Paula Woodward, I think it is, she said, what would you say? And he said, please leave was his first thing. And then he switched it to something else to like, please turn yourself in. And we've been talking about how that doesn't sit right because it doesn't make sense. The language has to be consistent with really finding a kidnapper or finding or belief in a kidnapper. I said on another episode that Patsy, when you say, Patsy, did you do it? Or did you guys do it? Patsy snaps back immediately. What? As in to show the truth of being appalled. How dare you accuse me? Why would I do that? And that's a natural knee-jerk amygdala type of reaction. Okay? I believe that. I respect that. But then when you look for consistent verbiage to follow through and say, why would I do that? Why would I do this? Why would I do that? Why would I do this? That kind of response almost floods your brain, right? And you can just go on, why would I want to? Why would I? And you can just go down the line. But Patsy didn't do that. John had to take over because Patsy was like, and she just kind of froze. And it's like you're giving me a half truth, which is where I'm at with the please leave portion. Let me see if I can get back to it so you understand what I'm talking about.
People and bad, but the bad exists. And we're never going to change that. And we're not trying to convince the bad people and the cynics and the hateful people that we loved our daughter and that we didn't kill her. We're trying to appeal to the good people and say, let's find this evil creature that's among us and put him away, because this person will kill another child.
Do you want him to contact you?
I would be desperate for a contact. At a minimum, please leave. You've done a crime that has captured world attention. Please tell somebody about it.
Why?
What else?
Because ultimately, we want to know who you are.
And why does that person care what you think?
That person, I'm sure, doesn't care what we think at all. I'm sure that person, we've been told that person was either very angry at me or was very jealous of me personally. And that's a heavy.
Don't you start your spiel. Don't you do it. Don't do it. Take me back to, you see how he pivots from please leave to, what do you say?
Burden for me to carry. Contact. At a minimum, please leave. You've done a crime that has captured world attention. Please tell somebody about it.
Please leave. You've done a crime that has captured world attention. Tell somebody about it. What? Kind of appeal is that? On the big stage, you have an opportunity to sort of speak to this person and say, you've forget the world. You see what I'm saying? Forget the world. You've done a crime that the world is now aware of. again, we continue to externalize and exclude JonBenet. And we talk about the crime. You've done a crime. Your daughter, but go on. You've done a crime that the world knows about. It's global. The Philippines is global. It's not domestic. It's worldly. It's international. So when you say you've done a crime that the world is now aware of, what does it matter what the world is aware of? You're pushing a narrative that makes the crime bigger. And you say to them, you've done something that the world knows about. Why would that appeal to him and make him want to turn himself in? Please tell somebody, because the world now knows. Was this supposed to be something that was small and happened on a smaller scale and stayed on a smaller scale? Because when we think about global, we think about the United States. Because now we're talking about, look, we engage the United States again on a global scale. Hey, we have your daughter, and we don't like the country it represents. We are a foreign faction, otherworldly, global, right? Not here, international, somewhere. Don't know where you are. You're somewhere out there. And you've done a crime that now the world knows about. John continues to speak to this foreign idea, this idea of foreign proportions. The ransom note talks about a foreign faction. And it talks about John in a way that, and it tries to misspell certain words, obviously, to throw us off the case. But this is what I say. You start picking up on little things that are just like, why would you be appealing or discussing the world in this context of appealing to this criminal? Why would that be a strong appeal unless you follow through and say, well, the world now knows about it and it's only a matter of time before. So you might want to find somewhere and talk to us, find somebody to talk to, because we're looking for you. But you see, John's pattern here is that Paula has to continue to pull out of him what he should already be saying. Because, yeah. And she's like, why would, natural questions that people would ask, why would he care what you think? Essentially, and basically, and what else? What else would you have to say to him? And you're talking about your daughter that was so precious to you, that was a sweet angel. And the way you memorialize her, you don't memorialize her like you lost her to someone foreign. Yet you speak as if you lost her to somebody foreign. And then you say to Linda Art that this was an inside job, but you come out to the news and say that this was somebody foreign. The people tell me, the investigators that I worked with tell me that this person did not like me. But you can never get a real answer out of JonBenet Ramsey about the crime, because he dances and dances and dances. And you can't get him to say any real thing about the crime because it's almost like he doesn't think about the deep things of the crime. He talks about everybody else's case, but you can't get him to talk about anything with his case that's meaningful. And then when you try to go talk to Burke, he blocks you from talking to Burke, even though Burke is a grown man. But then he brings Burke, and I gotta go find the footage. I gotta go find the footage of CrimeCon. Like I said, I think it's behind a paywall or something like that. So I gotta go. I might have to try to purchase it or something like that and buy it just for that, just to kind of review, because I know Cotton Star showed that Burke was in the house for CrimeCon 2025. So Burke was there, John Andrew was there, and they knew Burke had to be there. But I don't think Burke was on stage. Like I said, I have to go look, but I don't think Burke was on stage. He wasn't available to chat with anyone. He was just there, as far as I'm aware of. Because you have to be there. You have to show up. You have to show face, but you don't have to participate, is what it almost feels like. Just show up, talk to who you want to, hang around the people that we want you to hang around, keep him away from a bunch of people, but just show up and just be there. Because I imagine that a lot of people would want to talk to Burke or would want to ask Burke questions. And the setup of CrimeCon is a little bit, the setup of CrimeCon is the one that, it's a little bit pandering from what I can tell. Anyway, you keep on doing the same freaking format for no reason. No rhyme or reason. Freaking bringing back John and friends to talk about nothing. Bringing back Paula Woodward, and then you add Hal Haddon. It's like, what are we doing? Like, what are you here for? This is a useless session. You know what I mean? Like, to even let the man answer some real questions. Like, switch the questions up from year to year at least. You're asking the same questions 2 years in a row. But anyways, this otherworldly idea that John is purporting and pushing has me concerned, because we see similarities again between what he's doing and the ransom note. I'm trying to lock down something more concrete, though, because you can see the fingerprints a little bit of how John and this person seem to think similarly. Whoever this person was, and I mean it, whoever this person was in John's head. And I mean that, because we're not just talking about the ransom note. Whoever this person was in John and Patsy's head. They were on John and Patsy's psyche like white on rice or brown on rice. They were on it, and I mean that. They had John and Patsy blanketed. They had their schedule. They had the clothes that they wore down to the day so that the fibers matched. They used your material in your home. They used a little bit of your touch DNA. And not only did they do that, but they used your fingerprints on the bowl and on the cup. I mean, this person did a number. They made the writing look like Patsy. And they're starting to make the dictation sound exactly like John. This person did a number on y'all. I mean, he really did. These people were top tier level geniuses to sound just like you. That's weird. Boy, they did their homework. And they did it without AI. This person, you would think this person studied you for years. In theater, they do this thing to where, I can't remember the name of it, but they do this thing to where you have to learn several parts. If you're a backup, you have to learn like several parts and whatnot. And so you know what everybody's going to do so that you can step in whenever. And that is what this person had to have done. They had to step in and know for certain that they are copying John and Patsy in order to frame this thing to a T. I mean, this person was meticulous. They wore gloves, but they were able to get black fibers matching John's shirt inside of the long johns. Clear out any DNA that looks like them except for the small unknown male DNA spot that's debatable. Clear that out and just have it on the waistband. But you know what confuses me? They talk about the unknown male DNA profile, but the more I think about it, I'm not so sure that we can trust the unknown male DNA profile. Because from what I understand, they found an unknown male DNA profile around her waist. And from what I understand, John was touching her around her waist when he brought her up. So I feel like, and there was none of John's DNA in there, but I kind of feel like, I kind of feel like there should be something of John in there. Unless there's a way to manipulate and not get your fingerprints on there, I find it very odd that even through all of that, Patsy touching JonBenet and wrapping her up, John putting his hands there, you find something that's specific to one person? I don't know about that. And like we say, John touching all over stuff and they can't find his DNA nowhere. That is why the Boulder Police Department would be hesitant about giving their last DNA sample to just anybody. Because as we look forward to stuff and we look through stuff and we use the DNA measurements that they have, you guys are telling me that this man touched this girl and you can't find it anywhere. That's bogus. Especially if we're talking about DNA and skin cells and flaking skin. Touching something, fingerprints, touching something, and you can't find this man's DNA anywhere on this girl. That's a little weird. But beyond that, just the fingerprints of, that's why I say I gotta keep looking to understand more about the pattern of John Ramsey. Because it's like the more you hear him talk, the more you hear a mindset. You hear this mindset of, huh, that sounds familiar. You know, you know, if I had known any better, I would think that if I had known any better, I would think that you and this criminal were twins. You know what I mean? That you guys grew up around one another, because you guys are kind of doing the same. You guys are kind of doing the same thing. You guys are doing the same dance. And I think the problem, and people criticize the Boulder Police Department, but I think the Boulder Police Department was on to something. And I'll say this and be quiet. It's hard to get away from John and Patsy as the suspects because there's so many similarities. It's crazy. And obviously similarities don't prove that somebody's guilty. But it's just like when we have no similarities of anything else anywhere else, nothing. It's kind of hard because you're like, man, you guys are very similar. How could somebody make the crime scene so similar to you? That's weird. Confused. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. And till next time, take it easy.